Right now, in Southern Ohio, the tech industry is preparing to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to build an artificial intelligence brain.
Right, and not just anywhere.
Right.
Directly on top of a decommissioned uranium enrichment facility.
Yes. Which is just, I mean, we're literally building the engine of our digital future on the radioactive footprint of the atomic age.
It's one of those details that feels, way too on the nose for a sci-fi novel.
Hmm.
But it is happening right this second.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. As we comb through today's stack of sources, we're looking at the morning briefing for Friday, July 31st, 2026. We're basically looking at massive systems that are under intense, unprecedented stress.
Yeah, across the board.
Exactly. We're talking physical borders, global sports governance, trillion-dollar digital architecture, and honestly, even the basic framework of how we educate teenagers.
Right. The underlying question for you to keep in mind as we go through this material is what happens when the infrastructure we rely on when it simply cannot handle the demand placed on it?
Yeah. And just as importantly, how are human beings, and, a few autonomous robots, scrambling to recalibrate those systems before they completely break apart?
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. So let's just jump into the most literal example of an infrastructure breaking point in the briefing today, taking us to the border between Morocco and the Spanish territory of Ceuta.
Yeah, this is a situation that has, unfortunately, escalated from diplomatic friction into a very real, very tragic human crisis over the past week. And we're just reporting what's in the sources here, not taking any political stance, but the facts on the ground are intense.
Right, totally. So thousands of migrants have breached the border fence. But because that physical barrier on land is so heavily fortified, many people attempted to bypass it by actually swimming around the barrier where it extends into the water at Tarhal Beach.
Right.
And the resulting human toll is just devastating. The briefing confirms at least 18 deaths in the water.
Wow.
Yeah. With more than 2,000 migrants successfully crossing into Spanish territory in just the last few days alone.
And, to understand why this is happening, you really have to look at the geography. Ceuta is essentially this tiny European enclave sitting right on the coast of North Africa.
Right. It's a massive geopolitical choke point.
Exactly. And the local officials there, they had been waving red flags, publicly pleading for reinforcements long before the situation tipped over into this current emergency.
Yeah, and now Madrid has deployed the armed forces alongside the civil guard to try and manage the fallout. But what really stands out to me in the source material is the total breakdown in diplomatic communication.
Oh, for sure. The silence.
Yes. Moroccan authorities have remained completely silent in public about these mass crossings.
The silence is deafening. I mean, it implies that the diplomatic guardrails that usually manage this border have essentially evaporated. So it's leaving the physical infrastructure to bear a human load it was just never designed for.
Yeah, exactly. And, moving from the very real physical borders of nations, we are seeing another kind of territory being fiercely defended today, and that is the governance of global sports.
Oh, yeah. The FIFA story.
Yeah. The briefing outlines this massive financial standoff that is threatening to tear global football apart.
We are looking at a battle for the soul and, frankly, the future revenue streams of the most popular sport on Earth.
Okay, so Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA, he's actively pushing a plan to sell a 20% minority stake in a brand new World Cup subsidiary to private investors.
Right.
And the estimated price tag for that stake is $20 billion.
Which is just, $20 billion injected directly into a sports governing body. That's unheard of.
It is. And the pushback is absolutely nuclear. UEFA, CONCACAF, and the Asian Football Confederation are threatening a full boycott.
Wow.
Like, if Infantino forces this through, major footballing nations like Germany, France, England, and Spain will simply sit out of FIFA events.
Which would basically ruin the tournament.
Totally. UEFA actually put out a statement calling the entire plan, quote, irresponsible and indefensible.
Yeah, I saw that.
And, I look at this and I think of a beloved national park, right? Imagine the Park Service saying, hey, we're going to sell a 20% stake in the Grand Canyon to a hedge fund to, fund better visitor centers.
Right.
At what point does the pursuit of massive investor returns fundamentally alter the game itself?
That national park analogy is actually highly relevant because the member federations view the World Cup as a public trust, not a tech startup.
Right. Exactly.
What private equity wants for that $20 billion is influence. They want a say in broadcasting rights, tournament schedules, commercial partnerships.
All the levers of power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the federations are drawing a hard red line. They are demonstrating that a $20 billion payday just isn't worth surrendering control of the sport's fundamental infrastructure.
Right. It's like that $20 billion is the absolute limit of what the traditional sports world can digest.
Right.
But it is so wild to look at the very next story in the briefing and realize that in the tech world, they are treating 20 billion like, I don't know, a modest down payment.
Oh, yeah, like it's pocket change. We are seeing a scale of capital expenditure in artificial intelligence
Right.
that has absolutely no historical precedent.
Okay, so let's get into these numbers because they're staggering. NVIDIA is reportedly in talks to guarantee up to $250 billion in financing for OpenAI.
It's just massive.
And that is strictly so OpenAI can lease a 10-gigawatt data center campus in southern Ohio, which, by the way, is that facility being built by SoftBank's SB Energy on the decommissioned uranium site we talked about at the top of the show.
Right.
But, I mean, 10 gigawatts, that's enough power to run several major cities, all completely dedicated to training AI.
And that's just the real estate and the power.
Right. Because NVIDIA is also discussing a completely separate arrangement worth up to $350 billion just to finance the chips that will go inside that facility.
It's hard to even wrap your head around those figures.
It really is. If you tally it all up, OpenAI's projected computing infrastructure spend is hitting roughly $750 billion through the year 2030. I mean, I have to ask, are these tech giants just building digital ghost cities? Like, if you lay down $750 billion in concrete and silicon, aren't you just blindly hoping that consumer demand eventually catches up?
Honestly, that is the exact anxiety rippling through the industry right now. They're essentially betting the global economy on this premise that if you build the largest computational engine in human history, the revolutionary applications will just, invent themselves.
Right. Build it and they will come.
Exactly. But if that commercial demand doesn't materialize or, if it just plateaus, the financial sinkhole would be catastrophic.
Right. But the briefing actually gives us a glimpse of what this massive AI infrastructure is buying us right now. And it seems to be shifting away from just chatbots into systems that independently execute complex tasks.
Yeah, the Anthropic update.
Yeah, Anthropic just released Claude Opus 5.
And the crucial detail here for, anyone following the enterprise side is the price point. Because it costs exactly the same as the previous 4.8 model, but the architecture under the hood is fundamentally different.
Yeah, the briefing says it represents a step change in coding and long-running agent performance. Basically, it can break large jobs down into sub-agents.
Right.
So instead of handing a single cook a massive recipe book and asking them to prepare a 10-course meal all alone, the AI acts more like an executive chef.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah, so it basically hires a sous chef to prep the vegetables, a pastry chef for the dessert, and coordinates all of them in the background. It requires far less back and forth from the user, and it can actually recover from its own errors now.
Which is huge. That turns the AI from, a sophisticated calculator into an autonomous project manager.
Exactly. But to see what happens when you point that kind of compute at purely theoretical problems, we have to look at Levant Alpeuge.
Right, the Anthropic mathematician.
Yeah. He used Claude Fable 5 to completely disprove the Jacobian conjecture.
Which is just wild. This is an open problem in algebraic geometry that has literally stumped the brightest minds in mathematics since 1939.
Okay, I have to admit, I read this section of the briefing like 3 times, and my brain is still kind of doing backflips.
It's dead stuff.
It is. It says the conjecture involves a, quote, polynomial function with a constant non-zero Jacobian determinant, and the AI found a counterexample showing it's false in every dimension greater than 2.
Right.
I know all those words individually, but what does that actually mean for the rest of us?
Okay, so think of it like a map drawn on a giant sheet of rubber.
Okay.
The Jacobian determinant is basically a mathematical tool that tells you if that rubber sheet is being stretched or squished at any given point.
Got it.
So the 1939 conjecture basically guessed that if the rubber sheet is stretching evenly everywhere, meaning it never gets perfectly squished down to 0, you should always be able to unstretch it back to its original shape.
Okay. That seems intuitively obvious, actually.
Right. If I don't fold it perfectly flat, I should be able to reverse what I did.
Exactly.
But what the AI discovered is this bizarre, multi-dimensional mathematical function where the sheet is stretching evenly everywhere, but it twists and folds back on itself in such a complex way that you still cannot reverse it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The AI found the exact microscopic flaw in human intuition that mathematicians missed for 87 years. And once the AI mapped it out, it was incredibly easy for other human mathematicians to verify it.
Just a casual rewriting of a century of math.
Right.
Uh,
Though to be fair, the briefing notes the two-dimensional version of the problem still remains open.
True, true. Oh, and my favorite detail from this story. Alpej and a friend were inspired to tackle this problem while they were just sitting around watching the World Cup final.
Which is a perfect conceptual loop right back to our FIFA story.
It really is. But, before we crown AI as the ultimate problem solver, we have to talk about the fragility of the foundation it's built on.
Oh, absolutely.
Because all of these breakthroughs rely on a digital ecosystem built on open source code.
And that infrastructure is currently facing a massive onslaught.
Yeah. On the positive side, GitHub sponsors just crossed a major milestone. They've distributed $100 million to open source maintainers since 2019.
Which is great.
It is. It's supporting 70,000 developers via 280,000 sponsors. And the pace is really accelerating. The first 10 million took nearly 2 years, but the most recent 10 million took just 5 months.
Yeah, heavily driven by those expanded corporate and institutional sponsorships jumping in last year.
Exactly.
But, it is a great milestone, but the source material acknowledges the funding gap is still massive for projects running on these super thin volunteer resources.
Especially when you look at the resources of the people trying to break those projects.
Yeah, the cyber threat landscape is bad right now.
It's intense. The briefing outlines 3 massive stories. First, Microsoft has flagged Russian state-linked actors exploiting a flaw in Outlook web access. And this has been happening since May 2026, with a fresh wave starting July 22nd. And the alarming part is they are hijacking webmail sessions without ever needing a password, using a cross-site scripting flaw. How is it even possible to break in without the password?
Okay, so think about going to a nightclub. You show your ID at the door, and the bouncer gives you a hand stamp so you can go to the bar and come back without showing your ID again.
Right, I'm with you.
These state actors aren't stealing your ID, which is the password. They found a flaw in the website's code that lets them digitally copy the hand stamp, which is your session cookie.
Oh, wow.
So the email server sees the copied stamp and just waves them right in.
That is genuinely terrifying.
Yeah.
Then we have ransomware groups like Anubis pivoting to exploit an authentication bypass flaw in Citrix appliances, which is called Citrix Bleed 2.
Right, the NetScaler appliances.
Yeah, and they are using a trick called Bring Your Own Vulnerable Driver to disable endpoint security directly from inside the Windows kernel using stolen supply chain credentials.
Very sophisticated.
So if I'm following the logic here, instead of trying to hack the security system from the outside, they are essentially sneaking a corrupt security guard into the building and having them turn off the cameras from the inside.
That is precisely how it works. They bring in an old, legitimate piece of software that has a known vulnerability, install it using storing credentials, and use that vulnerability to quietly dismantle the server's defenses.
That's crazy.
It's exactly why security teams are being urgently warned right now to patch on-premises servers and audit their third-party vendor access, because the traditional perimeter defense is basically dead.
Wow. And finally, the FBI and Europol dismantled Audius 6, which was a dark web crypto laundering platform. They arrested 2 admins, a Ukrainian and a Russian national in Georgia, and froze $800,000.
Right.
But get this. Since 2022, that single service moved $389 million for cybercriminals, tied to at least 15 massive extortion operations.
Yeah, the scale is wild.
It is. And I pointed out this staggering asymmetry earlier. We just celebrated the open source communities scraping together $100 million over 5 years, while one single crypto laundering platform moved almost $400 million in just 4 years.
Right.
My question is, if you shut down one crypto laundering platform, don't 3 more just pop up on the dark web tomorrow? Like, are we just playing an endless game of digital whack-a-mole where the good guys are fundamentally out-resourced?
You can absolutely feel like whack-a-mole, for sure.
Yeah.
But targeting the money launderers is actually the only structural choke point law enforcement has.
Really? How so?
Well, you cannot possibly patch every zero-day vulnerability across the entire internet. It's impossible. But ransomware groups treat this as business.
Okay.
If they successfully lock a hospital's computers and demand a ransom, that digital crypto money is useless to them unless they can cleanly convert it into real-world currency to, pay their developers and buy more servers.
Oh, right. They have overhead, too.
Exactly. So platforms like Audius 6 are the physical bottleneck of digital crime. If you break the financial pipeline, the entire extortion economy stalls out.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of environments we are desperately trying to secure, Let's pivot from managing rogue global digital networks to how we are managing the digital networks in our own kids' hands in schools.
Right, the human infrastructure of our education system.
Yeah. In Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker just signed legislation mandating a bell-to-bell ban on wireless devices across all school districts, phasing in by the 2027-28 school year.
And this includes everything, right?
Everything: phones, tablets, gaming devices, smartwatches, all of it.
The mechanics of how they actually plan to enforce this are quite interesting.
Right, because obviously there are exceptions for medical reasons and special education, but the crucial detail here is that districts cannot enforce this policy through fines, fees, suspensions, or expulsions.
Right, they're taking the punitive sting out of it.
Exactly. They are joining states like Tennessee and Kansas in this push. Supporters are simply arguing that classrooms need to be recalibrated to actually allow for focused learning without, throwing kids out of school over it.
It is a structural attempt to just pull the plug on constant connectivity during those crucial developmental hours.
Yeah. But we also see how structural tools can be used to lift students up. The College Board's National Recognition Program hit an all-time record in 2026.
That was a great story, yeah.
300,000 high-achieving students received over 350,000 academic recognitions based on their AP and PSAT scores.
Right.
And the briefing really highlights the massive growth in first-generation college applicants and students from rural, small-town, and historically underrepresented schools.
And, the value of this isn't just a fancy certificate on a wall.
What do you mean?
Well, for a student in a rural district that might lack extensive college counseling resources, this provides a standardized, official signal to university admissions. It bypasses a lot of structural hurdles.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it acts as an institutional spotlight for kids who might otherwise get overlooked.
That's awesome. And while we are talking about human focus and exploration, I have to include this incredible milestone from the briefing.
The Mars rover.
Yes. While we are physically pulling devices out of kids' hands on Earth just so they can concentrate in algebra, NASA's Perseverance rover just drove a literal marathon on Mars. 26.2 miles.
Which is just an incredible feat of remote engineering.
It really is. It took 5 years and 4 months navigating near Jezero Crater, which is this ancient lake bed with possible signs of past life.
Yeah.
And what's amazing is that it completed the marathon in less than half the time it took the older Opportunity rover to cover that same distance.
Wow.
It is such a fascinating contrast to me. We are passing state laws just to create quiet spaces in high schools, all while our technological reach extends millions of miles away to ancient Martian craters.
It really highlights how adaptable human focus can be. When we eliminate the daily digital noise, the scale of what we can engineer and explore is breathtaking.
Absolutely, but of course the internet still ultimately runs on the daily noise.
Naturally.
Even with all this high-level institutional recalibration, digital culture still drives the conversation. Let's look at the trending section, starting with a historic stress test at the International Criminal Court.
Yeah, this is a completely unprecedented moment for international law.
It is. The ICC's Assembly of States Parties just voted to remove Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan over misconduct findings.
Right.
And this is the first time a sitting prosecutor has been removed in the court's 24-year history.
It's massive. And again, just objectively reporting what the sources say here, the reactions are deeply divided.
Right, totally. The source material lays that out very clearly. Supporters of Khan argued this removal is purely political retaliation for the high-profile war crimes warrants he issued back in 2024. But conversely, the Assembly maintains that strict due process was followed regarding the misconduct investigation. We aren't taking sides, obviously, just looking at the fallout.
Right, but it perfectly illustrates our theme today.
Mm-hmm.
Even the highest, most insulated courts in the world are not immune to the immense institutional pressures fracturing the current geopolitical landscape.
Well said. Then we have the friction of pop culture. Christopher Nolan dropped the final trailer for his epic movie, The Odyssey, and it is facing a massive backlash.
The internet is very mad.
So mad. It has hundreds of thousands of dislikes on YouTube. There is this intense internet fury directed at the casting choices and the modern-sounding dialogue used for ancient Greece.
Right.
Yet the early reviewers who have actually seen the movie are calling it one of his most ambitious, successful films yet.
The dissonance between reactionary internet outrage and measured critical analysis is practically a genre of its own at this point.
It really is. And keeping with our football theme, which, by the way, makes 3 World Cup connections today, EA Sports FC 27 dropped a trailer for its September 25th release across PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch.
Right.
Kylian Mbappe is back on the cover for the first time since FIFA 23, and the gaming community is already engaged in these massive, heated debates over subtle gameplay changes to pace and physicality.
Yes, of course they are.
Naturally. But the internet also delivered a genuinely beautiful football moment today.
Oh, the story of Vizinha.
Yes. Vizinha is a 40-year-old goalkeeper from Cape Verde who grinds away in Portugal's second division. He finally made his World Cup debut against Spain and then made 7 incredible saves in their opener against Uruguay.
An incredible performance.
So good. But the story blowing up online is that he got to reunite with his mother in Miami to watch him play after U.S. officials stepped in to waive the visa bond fees that she previously couldn't afford.
It is a rare, wonderful instance where dense bureaucratic infrastructure actually bent to accommodate humanity rather than the other way around.
I love that. And finally, a palate cleanser of pure joy. Jimothy.
The hero Seattle didn't know it needed.
Jimothy is a short-statured, short-spined raccoon wandering the Ballard neighborhood of Seattle. He has a congenital condition called short spine syndrome.
All right.
And it gives him this unique, compressed look and a delightful little gait. And the city has completely lost its mind over him.
In the best way possible.
Totally. He has dedicated street murals. People are getting Jimothy tattoos. He actually received an honorary degree from the University of Washington and formal recognition from the Seattle City Council.
That is amazing.
Wildlife officials are just gently reminding people to, appreciate him from a distance.
It really encapsulates the strange magic of digital networks.
Right.
Like, this is a space that can coordinate a global cyber extortion ring or violently tear apart a movie trailer, but it can also collectively, universally decide to protect and celebrate a strangely proportioned raccoon.
We contain multitudes. So let's summarize this massive journey we've taken through today's sources. We looked at the tragic breaking point of the Ceuta border and the $20 billion red line drawn in global football.
Yep.
We examined the staggering $750 billion flowing into AI data centers, which is already powering AI models capable of solving century-old math problems.
The Jacobian conjecture.
Exactly. We traced the arms race between open-source builders and dark web money launderers before looking at how we are actively pulling cell phones out of classrooms to protect human focus.
All while driving a rover across Mars.
Yes, and cheering for a viral raccoon in Seattle.
It is a masterclass in how every layer of our world is currently rewriting its own rules.
It really is. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. We spent a lot of time today talking about massive systems under stress. We saw humanity utilizing hundreds of billions of dollars of AI compute to unravel 87-year-old multidimensional math problems in the blink of an eye. But at the exact same time, we are literally passing state legislation just to figure out how to stop teenagers from staring at their screens during algebra. As our technological infrastructure becomes infinitely more advanced and increasingly autonomous, are we at risk of letting our basic human infrastructure, our ability to simply focus, connect face-to-face, and govern our own attention, quietly atrophy?
It is definitely something to keep an eye on.
For sure. Stay curious, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.